Welcome to the Puerto Rico Quickstart Guide provided by Legacy of Fun. My name is Mike Mitrovich, and I created this aid to help get new players up to speed. Warning! While this guide will certainly rock your socks off, it does not cover everything. You should watch this video while your host sets up the game, and then have them clear up all the confusion that I'm about to cause. Click begin when you're ready. In Puerto Rico, you will be looking to produce any of 5 different goods, including corn, indigo, sugar, tobacco, and coffee, and either ship them to the New World for victory points or trade them for money. While money is important, the game is won by the player with the most victory points at the end of the game. The path to victory is paved with special buildings, which can improve your shipping abilities, pad your pockets with cash, or have you producing goods with reckless abandon. In Puerto Rico, you will be carrying out 7 roles over and over again, which will by no means be as tedious as the video you are watching now. These roles each have a general action, which is not at all boring, but is nonetheless also jazzed up by a special privilege. Which roles will you play in the New World? Will you own the most prosperous plantations? Will you build the most valuable buildings? You have but one goal: achieve the greatest prosperity and highest respect. This is shown by the player who earns the most victory points. To give you a general feel for the flow of the game, here's a quick and dirty glimpse of what one round from a 3-player game might look like. In many games, player 1 remains player 1 throughout the game. In Puerto Rico, this is not so. Player 1 will rotate clockwise around the table. With that in mind, the first player in a round takes the governor card to let everyone know that they are player 1 this round. Don't let it go to their head. The governor chooses any one of the 7 roles. This wise governor chooses the builder. He then performs the builder role, and since he chose the builder, he also gets to take the special privilege associated with it. Once he's done, player 2 also performs the builder role, but she didn't choose the builder, so she does not get the special privilege. Then player 3 builds as well. Once all players have done the builder, player 2 picks a new role. In this case, she snags the captain. She performs the captain role, including the special privilege, since she chose the captain. Next, the other players perform the captain role also, but without the special privilege. And last, player 3 continues the same cycle with yet another new role and brings the round to a close. At the end of a round, all roles that were not chosen get a coin placed upon them from the bank to entice you to choose them next round. You see, if you pick a role with coins on it, it's free money in your pocket. Don't let it burn a hole there. Players then return their roll cards to the center, and player 2 takes the governor card and becomes the new head honcho for next round. Throughout the game, you will be dealing with all manner of game pieces, which I don't advise swallowing. These include settlers. These represent the fine folks who arrive by ship to farm your land and occupy your buildings. Plantations. This is where your settlers go to do said farming. Buildings. Buildings are full of all kinds of wonder that I'll share with you in just a moment. Goods. By pairing buildings with plantations, you will produce marketable goods in the form of barrels. Doubloons. I always thought doubloons were a type of baggy pants, but apparently in Puerto Rico, it's cold, hard cash. And last, we have victory points, aptly named since whoever has the most of these at the end of the game shall be victorious. Buildings play a huge role in Puerto Rico, so here's a quick overview. First, buildings and plantations are all built on your player board. Buildings in the city section, plantations in the rural section. You can move things around in either area all you want, but once the spaces are filled, you cannot build any more. Note that you can have any number of the same plantation. I don't know, maybe you want to be a corn czar. But you can build each building only once. You want a factory? You can only have one. There are 3 types of buildings in Puerto Rico. First, production buildings. You pair these with plantations to produce barrels of goods. Then there are the small purple buildings. These things are magic and allow you to bend or even break the rules. Last, we have the large purple buildings. These allow for victory point grabs at the end of the game if you meet the right requirements. Now each building has a cost, which is listed in the circle. You pay that many doubloons to build it. Each building also has a victory point value. This is the red number in the top right corner. Once you build a building, you are guaranteed its point value at the end of the game, whether the building is occupied or not. Which brings us to the little circles. This circle is where you will place settlers in order to occupy your buildings and plantations. This is important. Only occupied purple buildings provide their special benefit, and only occupied plantations and production buildings produce goods. Here's how plantations work. On their own, they're just wasted space. They need a production building to make goods. Say a player has one tobacco plantation and drops a settler there. And say they also have a tobacco storage plant with 2 settlers. When it comes time to produce, this player will just get 1 tobacco barrel. To use both settlers in your tobacco plant, you gotta have 2 settlers farming on tobacco plantations as well. If you just have a lonely settler on one of your plantations, say, I don't know, indigo, but nothing in an indigo building, no soup for you. The exception to this is corn. There is no production building for corn. You just need an occupied corn plantation, and you're good to go. Finally, you will also get a chance to build quarries, which go down by your plantations. Occupied quarries reduce the purchase price of your buildings. Alright, now it's time to get warm and cozy with all the roles and how they play out. If you think you're confused now, just wait. First off, the settler. The settler role allows the players to place a free plantation tile on their board. As their privilege, the player who drew the settler can choose to take a quarry instead. 3 buildings affect the settler phase if you have them built and occupied on your board. The hacienda lets you not only take a face-up plantation, but also draw a random one from the face-down stacks. When you aren't the one who drew the settler, the construction hut lets you still draw a quarry instead of a plantation. Lastly, the hospice allows you to take a settler from the off-ship supply and place it on a plantation that you just drew. The mayor. If you remember all my jabbering from earlier, you may recall that I said you can move your buildings anytime you want. But, and it's a big but, let me tell you, the only time you can move or gain new settlers is during the mayor phase. In the mayor phase, each player takes 1 settler at a time from the colonist ship, going clockwise around the table until the ship is empty. The person who drew the mayor has the privilege of taking an extra settler from the off-ship supply. The builder. In the builder phase, the players can each build 1 building at the price listed in the circle on the building cards. As a privilege, the person who drew the builder pays 1 doubloon less for his building. An occupied quarry or university is beneficial during the builder phase. An occupied university allows you to take 1 settler from the off-ship supply and place it on the building that you just built. And, like I said earlier, occupied quarries reduce your cost. The Craftsman. In the Craftsman phase, the players produce barrels of goods. Remember, all production requires an occupied plantation and, except for corn, also requires an occupied production plant as well. Each pairing of production worker to related plantation farmer produces 1 barrel of goods. As their privilege, the person who drew the Craftsman waits until everyone has their goods and then gets to take 1 more barrel of something he already produced this round. An occupied factory can score you some money if you produce more than 1 kind of good. The numbers on the factory building tile tell you how many doubloons you get for producing 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5 kinds of goods on your turn. The trader. In the trader phase, the players may sell 1 barrel of goods to the trading house. The trading house will only take different kinds of goods. So if there's already a barrel of coffee in the trading house, you, my friend, cannot sell one there this phase. The value of each good is listed on the trading house itself. As you can see, corn isn't even worth the husk you shucked it from. As their privilege, the player who drew the trader gets 1 doubloon more, so they can thumb their nose at the economy and sell a corn barrel for 1 doubloon, if they so please. 3 buildings lend their magic during the trader phase. The small and large markets increase a sale by 1 or 2 doubloons respectively. The office lets you break the rules and sell a good that is already sitting in the trading house. Tricky. The captain. Aside from points earned for your buildings, the captain phase is the one time during the game where you can earn victory points. I'd also say it's the most complicated phase, so ask your host to go over it in detail. Each player will be attempting to load one type of good at a time on one of 3 cargo vessels, and you'll get 1 victory point for each barrel you ship. But here's the deal. Each ship only takes 1 kind of good, and it has to be different from the other ships. So if one ship has corn on it, it won't take anything but corn, and the other ships won't take corn at all. The privilege for the player who drew the captain is that when they ship their first set of goods, they get 1 extra victory point. Now when no more goods can be loaded, if you have any barrels left over, I hate to say it, but you can only keep 1 barrel. That's right, folks, 1 single barrel. Your leftover 5 barrels of coffee and 3 indigo are now reduced to just a single barrel of either coffee or indigo. In addition to your single barrel, having the small or large warehouse allows you to hold on to 1 or 2 entire kinds of goods at the end of the phase. The Wharfax is an imaginary ship that will take every barrel you have of a single type, even if a cargo ship is already loaded with that type. Lastly, the harbor grants you 1 extra victory point for each type of good you deliver. Handy indeed. And last, we have the humble Prospector. I'm not one to gossip, but the Prospector is greedy, mean, and doesn't like to share 1 bit. It's a quick and easy cash grab. Whoever draws the Prospector grabs a doubloon from the bank, plus any extras that were placed upon it from not being taken last round. The other players just get to kick themselves for not grabbing it first. Alright, hopefully you have a pretty good feel for how the game plays. You know you'll be juggling a bunch of resources and rolls in order to try and have the most victory points at the end of the game. But I bet you're wondering, when the heck is the end of the game? The game ending is triggered once one of the following events occurs. First, if at the end of the mare phase, the one where everyone gets new settlers off the ship, if you can't refill the colonist ship properly, the end is nigh, my friends. 2. During the builder phase, if anyone builds on their 12th city space, the end is also nigh. Last, if during the captain phase, when you're loading goods on the 3 ships, if the last victory point ship is used, the end is also nigh. Once the end has been triggered, though, all is not lost. You still finish out the current round. That means everyone still gets to draw a roll card if they haven't already done so this round. But after that, it's all over. The player with the most victory points wins. Congratulations, you! Add up the value of all your victory point chips, plus the red number at the corner of all your buildings, occupied or not. Lastly, add any special bonuses for your large buildings, but only if they are occupied by a settler. If there's a tie, the person with the most doubloons and goods wins. I hope you've enjoyed my invaluable Puerto Rico Quickstart, but if not, here's your chance to stick it to the man. Well, at least a man. Whether you love it or hate it, I'd love any feedback you have. Please feel free to email the address you see on the screen. I'm fully stocked up on Viagra, so please only send comments regarding this guide. I'd also like to give a big thanks to the awesome players at BoardGameGeek.com for their invaluable insight. Enjoy the game.